watching Parker Success Academy with Dr. William E. Morgan.
Hello, I'm Dr. William E. Morgan, and this is Parker Success Academy, where we explore models of business success in chiropractic practices. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Derek Barron. Derek, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business model?
Hey, Dr. Morgan. First of all, thank you so very much for allowing me this opportunity to be on Parker Success Academy. What you have done for the chiropractic profession is fantastic, and what Parker Seminars does for chiropractors and their staff is phenomenal. So thank you again for that. My story getting into chiropractic is not unique by any sense of the imagination, but it's been a fun journey along the way, going to graduating from National back in '97. First working with a primary care physician for a very short period of time, then working for an orthopedic surgeon, then, going out into my own practice with my eventual wife, who was a physical therapist and athletic trainer. We had a great practice called Integrity Sports Medicine. And that's where I really grew to love the chiropractic and the rehab model. It was an important part of, what we did as far as covering athletes, and whether they were weekend warriors or student athletes that were at the high schools that we covered. It was a great model for me to go into practice. And it was a blast while I was in practice. And eventually moving away to doing what we're doing now, as far as working with practices to help them grow and scale their business.
And you work a lot with reputation management as well. In fact, you've spoken several times at Parker Seminars on reputation management, something that's very important to every practice. Now, we're going to dive into that further in a minute, but I want to find out, is there some fun fact you'd like to share with the audience, something interesting about you that most people would know about?
Yeah, great question. Fun fact, I love to say probably the funnest thing that I enjoy besides spending time with my family. I still get to do it with them, but I love water skiing. And one of the greatest things that I ever taught myself from a water skiing perspective was to barefoot water ski. So when you're going 40 miles an hour behind a boat, and you say, okay, I'm going to drop a ski, and you're on one ski slaloming, and you say, I'll drop the other ski. It's a blast to go 40 miles an hour on your feet, as far as you can. I've never gone a tremendous distance. I'd love to say I could go a mile behind a boat. I'm not gotten to that point, but pretty close. As I hit 50 years of age this year, I did it, and it was one of the best times I had. So barefoot water skiing is a fun thing.
It's pretty fun. Well, thanks for sharing that. Can you explain your business model to us and what you do and how you consult chiropractors?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a chiropractor, it's great to always give back to our profession. And we utilize something called the practice leverage method. So reputation is a key foundational component in that. We break it down into 4 segments. The first segment that we look at is having a practice foundation. Second segment, building up from that, is a patient foundation. And then we create what are called practice drivers, and we finish with practice accelerators. So where reputation really fits in is it's the practice foundational component. Everybody needs to be found when somebody is searching for their practice online. And it's great when somebody searches for Integrity Sports Medicine or Morgan Chiropractic and your practice pops up. But from a competition factor, and we should all be competitive, that we want to be first on the list, that only means showing up in search first, but it also means having more reviews than your competition. Because the truth is, if you and I are going to a restaurant by a referral from somebody, we're still going to look at online reviews, whether it's in Google, Yelp, or even Facebook. So the more people are doing to generate those reviews for themselves, it's what positions themselves from many different factors. So we kind of pick off different segments in each of those 4 levels that we work on our clients with. And it's a great way. Almost everybody wants to dive into marketing. But if you don't have the foundation of your practice set up, if you don't have the foundation, and this is probably the most difficult one for most doctors to deal with, is truly picking a niche of patients. We all believe we can see an infant to a 100-plus-year-old, and we probably all have. But if you really want to grow your practice for the style of patients you like to see, then pick that out, get a perfect avatar, a perfect message, and a perfect solution. And we have ways to help people do that. It doesn't mean you exclude anybody, but you really focus on one patient that you like to work with the most.
That's important, having an avatar. at Parker University, we've outgrown our current clinic system. So we're actually building new clinics. And we had an offsite where we all get together and decided what is the avatar for us. And we had all the leadership for Parker come together, the person, almost that you could take a picture or draw a picture of who this person would be. A young person who's athletic, who's aspiring to go into college, athletics, whatever that is. It's so specific. Now, if we have a neonate comes in, or somebody who's who's has some other issue, we're going to accept them too. But we wanted to have that one primary person we're really focusing on in our marketing and our clinic, and then we expand out from there. And I think that's what you're talking about, having very specific.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% on that. There's nothing, we all love to treat as many patients as possible. It's not necessarily a numbers game, it's a quality of numbers game. And if you know that you like to work with weekend warriors, market to them every moment you can. If you like to work with pregnant moms and their kids, market to them. If you like to work with teachers that are athletes, that are moms, there's a way in which you can sub-niche down to that. And then those patients are going to speak highly of you and refer. So what you're doing from the university perspective is fantastic. You're reaching out for your ideal student that you want there, because they're only going to spread the word more about the great work that you do.
Well, those are our patients we're looking for. We also have our avatar for our ideal student as well. So if you're saying you're everybody's everything all the time, that means you're nobody's nothing all the time. You have to go, as I often say, is pick a niche and grow rich. This is what we do. I don't do that very well. I don't do this very well, but I do this aspect of chiropractic or education very well.
That's a great point. Riches and niches is very true when it comes into, business in general. Mm-hmm. And, Starbucks did pretty well in coffee, but as well as they do that, they started adding muffins in and they started adding gifts in. So it's the same thing. If you are, for us in our practice with Integrity Sports Medicine, our model was to work with student athletes and the weekend warriors. So we covered sporting events. We were at all the football games, all of the, track and field events, all the basketball games. So people knew coming in. And what was really odd is we pushed that so much. When I left that practice and we moved to a different state, people would still come up to me and say, "Are you a chiropractor or are you a trainer?" Because they would see me on the sidelines. So I didn't do a good job, which is something that I speak to people about, but I didn't do a good enough job of saying I was a chiropractor. I was on the sidelines and they looked at me from a physician standpoint versus a chiropractor standpoint. Not that that was bad, but I didn't push the message of what chiropractic was and can do in my community. And I treated a tremendous amount of patients, but they also knew that if they needed to be taped or if they needed care, if they had a concussion, they could come to see us. So I really help the providers now promote what you love to do to make sure that message meets those people that are searching for exactly your type of chiropractic care.
So they assume because you're kneeling down next to an athlete on the field, maybe with a pullover shirt on and khakis or chinos, that because you're in the same uniform as all the other trainers and PTs on that. And I used to take care of the Naval Academy football team, and we all wore the same garb, basically polo shirts and khaki pants, whether you're an orthopedic surgeon, the chiropractor, or the trainer. So you couldn't tell us apart unless, you saw me on the sidelines adjusting people. So, what is your personal definition of success?
Thanks for the question. It's twofold in my opinion, because I think success comes from within first. You have to have the mindset of who you want to be and where you want to go. And then you can apply that to your business. So, I've heard you say it, and I know some of the tenets of Dr. Parker are, success leaves clues. So if I want success in my life, I have to draw a map out to achieve it. And it doesn't mean that every once in a while you make a right turn or a left turn that's going in the wrong direction. As long as you can recalibrate and move forward, that's what's important. But for me personally, it's always having a strong, belief in who I am and with my family. My family has always come first. My practice came second, but it didn't matter because my wife was there with me and my son was there with me as well when we started. From the business standpoint, I look at success as, and I think it was Jim Rohn that said, success is not a destination, it's a journey. So you're always improving upon yourself every single day, that every day you learn something better to do what you can treat with your patients. You learn how to be a better person. You learn how to be a better leader in your business. And going from clinician to CEO is a big step for many doctors to understand that when you step out of work and you go into practice yourself, you have to be someone that can switch out of that role back and forth from that clinician to CEO. So as you, again, you had mentioned success leaving clues, trying to find out what others have done. So success for me has always been, can I be better tomorrow than I was today? It's not always easy, but it's always a path.
So it sounds like a lot more character development is your definition of success. So it sounds like you're a Jim Rohn fan as well.
I love my grandfather, but I wouldn't mind having him as a step grandfather. He'd be a great guy to be able to share some knowledge with and sit down and have some coffee. And wherever he traveled in the world, it's always good to listen to Jim Rohn.
I listened to a lot of his recordings. He's no longer with us, of course, but one of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn is, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with."
What's interesting about that, Dr. Morgan, is I think too often in our profession as chiropractors, and to be very honest, even in physical therapy, my wife being a physical therapist and us practicing together, too often we combat. And I don't mean just chiropractors and physical therapists, I mean chiropractors and chiropractors. You know, I wish that every chiropractor in every community would sit down on a Friday, and whether it was Tequila Friday or Coffee Friday, whatever it was, and just sit down and have a casual conversation of what can you do to promote your businesses and chiropractic to elevate that. Instead of, and what I think is great about Parker Seminars also in this Success Academy is it doesn't matter what school we went to, you're trying to do the best you can to elevate our personal game and our practice game. And that's what chiropractors should be able to do together. And, you know, chiropractors and physical therapists, there's no better way to work a practice than having both of those together. In my opinion, that's how our practice worked well.
That's good. And then to integrate and to share, there's enough patients for all of us. And if I have a practice that emphasizes wellness, straight chiropractic, or if I have a practice that's taking care of prenatal care, and I have somebody with a herniated disc, and that's not my specialty, you might refer to somebody else, another chiropractor, expecting them to return that patient at the end of their care, and collaborate. And collaboration, a big part of my life is collaboration. And having worked in a hospital where there's 2,000 other providers, and there's 3 chiropractors. Well, they don't need me doing rehab. They don't need me doing orthopedics. They need me doing chiropractic. They need me to adjust. So
absolutely,
it's, if you find yourself the thing you really love to do and put yourself there and just do lots of it.
Yeah, and for chiropractors that do work in a multidisciplinary practice, it's great if you do assume that position that is what your strength is. You know, if it is your strength that you do and it is purely chiropractic, do it. But if you like doing, you know, taping and rehab, it's okay to do that. But as chiropractors, unless you're a cash-based practice, which is different, we make our money by doing the adjustment. The way insurances are affecting the game a little bit that's out there right now, why not have somebody in your practice that makes the money by doing the rehab, and you do what makes you special, and that's chiropractic. That's what makes us unique.
And I found, like you talk about taping, things like that, the smaller the team it is, the more the chiropractor, like if you're a sports chiropractor, if you're taking care of a high school team or let's say it's a club sport, you might be doing everything for that team. Where when I was working with a Division I football team, it was those tapers, they're taping so fast I can't even see it. You wouldn't want me taping that ankle. I would make a mess of it. You have the orthopedic surgeon over here checking out the knees. You have other things. But there's only me doing the adjustment. So I would get in there and adjust the whole team before a game and during the week. And that's all, because we had so much depth to our skills that you didn't need me playing off here. I played at my strength. Now, maybe I could have done that if I was taking care of a junior high team. I might be everybody's everything, be the team physician.
Right.
So is there a book that you would recommend, or one that you've read recently, to our audience?
You know, a great book that I recently read, I won't say I've completed it completely because there's a lot of in-depth work. It's a book by Ray Dalio called Principles. And it's he's one of the, if not the leading investor right now. And it's about how you are setting goals for you set a goal, and it goes in kind of an upward loop and expanding. So we're always going to make mistakes in our life and in our business. But if you go through this repetitive loop of making a goal, you know you're going to make a mistake, but learn from that mistake and then come out and set a higher goal than you did before. So it's a great book to talk about from a business sense. It doesn't necessarily deal with the philosophy of chiropractic, of course, but it's a great way to not only work on your personal success, but on the practice side, the business success. So it's called Principles by Ray Dalio.
Very good. It sounds great. And of course, as far as you talk about goals, when you have goals, and there's success is the journey. I believe that, not the destination. Is your character development. It's how you grow with your practice, how you treat people. But to have a goal, you really need, like, we're recording this in December 2020. But the time most people are putting together their New Year's resolutions or their New Year's goals, if your goal is to say, get in better shape, it's so nebulous that nothing's going to happen. But if I was to put, I want to be 12% body fat at 200 pounds and have a heart rate of 62 and be able to run 3 miles. Now that's something I could sink my teeth into. That's something I can say, okay, I can work this out. So by July, I could probably attain that. And I could actually tick it off my to-do list by having those specific goals. And in business, it's good to have, like, what are my goals for this year for the business? And I'm really big on strategic planning and having a strategic plan. And in fact, I probably need to have my own, one of my own Success Academy classes just on having a strategic plan for your practice. But a plan must be specific, and it's a map. A strategic plan that's the goal. My strategic plan is, this is how I get there. If my goal is to weigh 200 pounds at 12% body fat and have this level of fitness, I will have to eat these foods, exercise this many times a week, get this much sleep, get this much chiropractic care. And at this point, I can attain that. And the plan gets you to the goal.
Right. I would agree. To simplify it, what I tell, whether it's clients or patients that we work with, so I'm originally from a small town in northern Wisconsin called Rhinelander. And I would ask people, do you know where Rhinelander is? And some would, out of a freak of nature, say absolutely, which would stun me because it's such a small town. Or they would say, no, it isn't. I said, so we can look up on a map and we can say, where we are here in Illinois, up to Rhinelander is a 6-hour drive. So we can reverse engineer how long it would take us to get there. So it's basically a map. And when you strategic plan, you are planning out your success, whatever that number is, whether it's weight loss or patient visits or income that you want, pick those numbers out and then reverse engineer from whether it's July 1st or whether it's December 31st in the year ahead of 2021. We can look at those numbers and step backwards and say, okay, if we need to, whatever quarter end goals that we need to hit, we then break it down into weekly steps to get us there. So you're exactly right that strategic planning is a fantastic thing to do. And I'll be watching that Parker Success Academy when you do your strategic planning for it. But it's a great way for us to set goals and step back and see how do we achieve them. And I think the most important thing is, don't get down on yourself if you don't hit it. Sometimes we put a big goal out there and overstretch, but in that book, again, by Ray Dalio of Principles, that as long as you learn from that mistake, or maybe you took a little too long, or you took a diversion, as long as you learn from that mistake, you'll get there quicker next time.
I agree. And also you make more realistic goals. So
Yeah.
In your journey, did you have a down point where you took a dip? What's the worst moment in your journey?
Great question. My wife and I are actually just discussing this the other day. When we were in practice, it was our second year in practice together, and my wife and I secretively were working on getting pregnant. And the reason I say secretively is because we had to do in vitro fertilization. So, unfortunately, we have a great son out of it. He's 16 years old now, Reese. Fortunately, he was happy to meet you at Parker when I spoke
it was great
there.
to have him.
But what was hard for us is we had planned for success knowing that my wife was going to be out of the practice for a short bit. So we had said, okay, 9 weeks from this day, we need somebody to take over for our practice from the physical therapy standpoint. Well, unfortunately, the low part in our practice was when my wife ended up having what's called HELLP syndrome. So our son and my wife were life flighted from our community 2 hours away, and we had to run our practice split. And just the week before that, actually, our office manager quit, said, I'm going to give you my 2 weeks notice on a Monday. She left on a Wednesday. My wife was in the emergency room shortly after that, giving birth to our son via cesarean section. So that's when emotionally, I hit probably one of the lows in my life, because I didn't know where my wife would be health-wise and if we would be able to, have a son that we had gone through so much from not only just a financial standpoint, but a stressful standpoint. So it showed me that I need to strategically plan our business out for when those things happen. So in the practice, of course, our practice took a hit, but my wife is such an incredible trooper. She was back in the practice in 10 days seeing new patients.
Wow.
So we could hand them over to our athletic trainer, and she would go back 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away, and be around our son. And that was 6 weeks that she was away. So it was a very stressful point. So back to that point of strategic planning, you can do your best, but you never know when something's going to come up. So that was a low point in our personal lives and in our practice, but it all turned out for the best.
That's a great story. I think a lot of times people don't put margins into their life. And there's a book called Margins that if, because there's margins in paper, if you fill up the whole page, there's no room for error. You need to have margins in our life that if you vary one way or another, you don't crash. That's why there's on roads, they have that margin. If you vary a little bit, you don't crash into the wall because there's a margin there. In our life, we need to have a margin so that when there is a variation, you have enough leeway that you can correct and get back on the track. So that sounds pretty pivotal. Is there one pivotal moment in your life and your journey that kind of put you on the path that you're on now?
Yeah, put me on the path that I'm on now. It's a great question. When I was in practice at the end in my own personal practice, there was a bit of a struggle point because we weren't sure how things were going to go from an insurance perspective or in our practice. And I really started to want to spend more time with the patient. So there are practices that really look at, I want to see as many patient visits as possible. And if that's your path, that's great. We can help you get to that point. For me personally, I wanted quality time and to make money. So it was the shift from an insurance base to a cash base that allowed me to bill myself a little bit higher than I would from an insurance reimbursement. So, when our practice was near the end, we were thinking of what we were doing before we went to sell it. And for me, I wanted to spend more quality time with the patient, give them what they deserve. And again, I'm not trying to put down anything that people don't do extra rehab or anything of that nature. That's just how I chose to practice. So I wanted to do soft tissue work. I wanted to do chiropractic care. I wanted to do rehab. And I wanted to figure out how I could get the reimbursement for the value of that. And it was a mindset shift that I, again, had to jump out of the clinician and go into the CEO aspect and say, okay, if this is what I want in my practice, it's what I have to do. So there was a struggle point. So that's why we put together what's called the practice leverage method to help people understand that where you're going from where you're at right now to where you want to be strategically and planning that out. There's mindset shifts along the way that you have to step in and out of. So that point in my practice helps me help others focus on where they're at. Mistakes will happen. You'll have successes along the way, but we have to keep pushing through and always changing the mindset level of from the clinician to the CEO and step in and step out of that role.
And you call it what did you say?
It's called practice leverage method. We're looking for people to do is leverage themselves and their practice so you don't have to do everything all the time. Put a fantastic team around you that, again, if you focus on chiropractic, be the very best you and the very best chiropractor you can be. So we find ways to leverage the business aspect of it so you can be the best for your patients.
So frequently we talk about entrepreneurship versus working for yourself. If you're a CEO, if you don't show up for work, the business goes on. If you're working for yourself, you have to be part of it. You can't put somebody else in there because you don't have systems in place. So chiropractic marketing, advertisement, and also social media, reputation management are big topics. What tips would you give our audience based upon your expertise?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Morgan. I think the number one thing that most practices need to strongly consider is doing exactly what you and I are doing right now, and it's video. I understand this is a video that will eventually be part of your Success Academy series, but what they have to do is, I tell people, consider creating a Wellness Wednesdays. That's where you go every Wednesday, whether it's morning, noon, or evening, and you set aside time where you go live on Facebook and or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube, and you speak of a message. We all know we have 52 things we can talk about in chiropractic care, or about patient care, or about rehab, or about nutrition. If we strategically plan now, we'll have 52 Wednesdays set aside that we can speak about the message of chiropractic. Now, if you don't know which topics to do, if you have an email list, email it out to your patients. Say, I'm going to start doing a series called Wellness Wednesdays. And on those days, I want to do topics that help my patients have a better life for themselves. They'll give you ideas to talk about. The other thing that you want to do, if there's a strategic partner in your community, as you build up that platform, why not do an interview just like this, similar to a podcast, where you're highlighting their practice. So now you're in front of all of their customers or patients, depending on who it is. So if it's an orthopedic surgeon, if it's a physiatrist, if it's a medical doctor, if it is a nutritionist, or if it's a school teacher that you want to get into that school to be in front of more of the teachers, why not get on and spotlight that person as well? So too many people are afraid of the video, but the power of what a video can do is not only do you get the video image, you can pull out the audio from it, and then you can have it transcribed for it to be a podcast, or a blog post. So there's so many things that are there. But over time, you will have more videos on the web than your competitors, and you will be the one that's the leader in your marketplace. So I'm always telling people, consider doing a show. Have your own show, Wellness Wednesdays, for instance, or you could do whatever day you want to pick, but just start doing something that leverages you and your time and your practice.
A lot of value bombs there. That was great, by the way, Derek. That was so many things we could act on right there. But like taking advantage of YouTube, or never in history has it been a better time to be an entrepreneur. You can have your own TV show. We all can have, we can have our own TV show. You can have it and go into your community. And I love the idea, because if you interviewed an orthopedic surgeon, of course they're going to put it on their webpage. They're going to send it out to their people. And again, it's going to come back to you. Who was it? Basically, you get to what you want. I think it's Tremendous Jones. You get to what you want in life by helping other people get what they want in life. And
so everybody's into what's in it for me. And if you you will build an audience, and there will be somebody in your community that wants to be on your show. And out of value and service and the character and integrity you have inside, you bring them on the show. But the truth is, that's going to grow your message, and you're going to get in front of other people, especially if it's an orthopedic surgeon, a podiatrist, a physical therapist that you may think is a competitor. Mm-hmm. It is going to help you grow your practice, and you're going to get in front of people that would have never thought. But since you're on a show with an orthopedic surgeon, you know what? When my back hurts, my neck hurts, my wrist, my knee, my shoulder, when any of those things hurt, I remember speaking with Dr. Morgan on that show. I want to be a part of him. I'm going to call him up.
And plus, the face. People, once they've heard you talk, because somebody's never been to a chiropractor before, for example, they're a little fearful, but they'll see, well, Dr. Barron looks like a kind person. He looks like, after hearing him, he's different than I expected. He's gentle. He's warm. He's understanding. He has all these great communication skills. I'm going to go see Dr. Barron. So now we at Parker frequently talk about something called the 10X concept, something that you do in your business that has a 10 times return on either your effort or your investment. So what in your life have you found a 10 times return on your effort or investment?
I believe that would be personal development in myself. So take Parker seminars away for a moment. Seeing anybody that's out there in the world that is, and I don't want to say influencer because you automatically think of Instagram right now, but somebody that is influential that can help you improve yourself as an individual. So no matter who that, like you were saying, Charlie Tremendous Jones or Jim Rohns, there's some great individuals that are out there right now that can help us scale up ourselves. Because again, the better we are personally inside ourselves and can deal with when those struggles do hit, the better we're going to be able to take our practice to the next level and or take our patients to the next level. Now, personal development is wonderful to me and for what it's done for me, but what I didn't know, unfortunately, is what Parker Seminars does. You bring amazing influencers in to educate us. Like I remember seeing Rich Froning was an individual that was there, and how he loved chiropractic, and Danica Patrick. Some of those people that you don't think are, I don't want to say aren't chiropractic friendly, but they put chiropractic in their back pocket to know that took them to the next level. So we can hear chiropractors that help our practice grow. But when you take somebody that's on the outside of our world and we can learn from them, it levels up ourselves, which again, secondarily will level up our practice. So for me, it's always been personal development.
So we're drawing to a close here. So at this point, I'd like to ask you for one thing to leave the audience with, but also you've got a consulting business as well on helping other chiropractors. Could you leave us your contact information, how we can get a hold of you? But also, what is that one thing you'd like to leave the audience with before we leave today?
A quote from an unknown person is, a year from today, you'll wish you had. So again, talking about strategic planning, whatever you're thinking about today, I really emphasize to people, start to think bigger than you think you are or think you can achieve, because a year from now, you never know what will happen. It jumps back to the 10X factor. You have to do what you can to make yourself bigger and better. And along the way, you not only will do that, but you'll lift up your staff, you'll lift up your patients, and truly, I believe you'll lift up your community. So a year from now, you'll wish you had. I really wish people take that. And again, it's an unknown quote. I'm not sure who it's from. I've always saw it as unknown. I wish I could give it to somebody, but move 365 days from now, when you watch this, plan ahead and make yourself bigger than you are. And Dr. Morgan, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about us. My consulting firm is called Practice Insiders Edge. You just type .com, practiceinsidersedge.com. You can go on there. There's a little box in the bottom right that you can chat with us. It'll buzz right into my cell phone. Chatting technology is going to be very important moving forward. So please feel free to go there. We've got stuff on YouTube, and we've got a Facebook page and a Facebook group. So anything I can do to help. I don't like to be a hard closer by any means. I just want to find out where you are, what has worked, what hasn't, and if there's things that we can do to help your practice and yourself level up to the next side.
You've been listening to Dr. Derek Barron, and thank you for joining us at Parker Success Academy.
Thanks for watching another episode of Parker Success Academy with Dr. William E. Morgan.